morning. A little bit late start. Had a little bit of a snafu this morning. So, I'm going to set up this light. I'm at home. Whoops. This is Tuesday morning. Whoa, that's bright. Let's turn that down a little bit. There we go. Wendy and Jeremy, welcome. Dana, good morning. Alyssa Tucker, good morning. Jan Akins, Daryl and Suzanne, welcome. Good morning, everyone. Debbie King, Janisa. So, hey there, Jim and Kathy. Good to see you. It happens every once in a while. I can't seem to do this without 100% success. That I get out to the church property, get everything set up, and get ready to pull out my phone to set up the live stream, and lo and behold, I've left my phone at the house. So I got to pack everything back up, throw it in the pickup, come all the way back here, and do a late live stream. So Barbara, good morning to you. Steve and Andrea, good to see you this morning. So here we are. And we'll just take it for what it is. And my tripod broke this morning. So it's kind of tilted to one side right now. And I have it kind of balanced in a crazy way. Carmen, good morning to see you. Madeline, good morning. Michaela, good to see you this morning. We miss you already. And out there on the East Coast, glad you got home safe even after your delays. Jonathan Cassis, good morning. So I'm going to do something this morning. I'm going away from the Psalms. It's kind of fun to do that once in a while. We spent some time last year in the Sermon on the Mount. We spent probably a month or so in the book of Proverbs a few weeks back. And this morning I thought, for a period of time, we'll see how long we do this, to get into the book of Ecclesiastes. And if you've ever spent any time in the book of Ecclesiastes, most people don't spend a lot of time in the book of Ecclesiastes. You go through it, you draw a couple of nuggets out of it, and then for the most part you kind of leave it the way it is, because it's one of those wisdom books. It's poetry, it's wisdom literature that on the surface just feels cynical. The writer is telling us that no matter what you do, vanity, vanity, all is vanity. No matter what you do, it's not going to amount to what you think. It's not going to really accomplish what you hope. It's that kind of fatalistic, type of approach to life, and that doesn't feel great, when you're reading it sometimes. But the reality is, the book of Ecclesiastes is one of the treasures of the Bible. And if you get past that first level, you really understand some really important answers to questions we ask all the time. Because if the book of Proverbs presents conventional wisdom, so in other words, conventional wisdom is, if you apply conventional wisdom, the principles of conventional wisdom to your life with regularity, generally your life is just going to go well. You're going to be successful in your endeavors, and you're going to have good friends, and your business is probably going to be successful, and your family life is going to be better. That's conventional wisdom. It's not a guarantee, obviously, because there's always exceptions to the rules. There's always, the righteous person who suffers unjustly, the foolish or wicked person who gets rich, and they're like, wait, where's the justice in all this? Ecclesiastes kind of addresses some of those exceptions to conventional wisdom. And so it's really important for us to see the big picture of how God works and so on. So the question that Ecclesiastes essentially answers is the one that we commonly ask one another with some regularity. And there are two questions. They're usually posed in two different ways, at least to me. And one is, we like to pose this question. If you had unlimited resources, in other words, if money was no object at all, what would you do? That's the question. And we like to ponder that question because, we feel like it gets down to the heart of what our true core longings are, our core desires. And if there was no restraints to obtaining that core longing or core desire, what would it be? Sometimes we ask that question to kind of determine a life course, a course of life, because in our society of free enterprise and capitalism and so on, if you work hard enough, long enough, there's a lot of goals you can achieve if you set your mind to it. So it's a question we ask. The first one is, if money were no object, what would you do? The second question is similar. It has to do with more of our personal limitations. If you could choose any path for your life, and you knew that path would be successful, a career path or some sort of life path, what path would you choose? And this is essentially the question we're all asking when we're graduating high school or when we're graduating college, because we have this wide open landscape before us in those periods of our life where we can literally choose almost any path, but there's no guarantee that path will be successful. In fact, most of us who've lived life for any length of time know that we've tried several paths that have run into challenges, obstacles that was like maybe we couldn't overcome. We had to kind of change our path or alter it or something so that we could continue forward in success. So these are really important questions. If you had all the money in the world, what would you do? If you could choose any path that would result in success, what would that path be? What would that look like? And the writer of Ecclesiastes answers these two questions. And essentially is, what is the secret of life? What is the key to life? And that's why this book is so vital to our understanding. Because you have the writer of Ecclesiastes, who arguably is Solomon, the wisest king of all of Israel. I mean, just known for his wisdom. Other leaders of other nations would come and sit with Solomon just to hear his wisdom, maybe go to him for counsel and so on. This is a really wise person. He prayed that famous prayer when Nathan the prophet asked him, whatever you want, God will give you. He had the question posed to him, if you had unlimited resources, what would you do? And he asked for wisdom. And God gave it to him, along with riches and power and influence and all these other things. So if anybody could answer the question, if you had unlimited resources, unlimited funds, what would you do? It's Solomon. If you had anybody with you could choose any path you want, you're not limited by a lack of gifting or a lack of smarts, whatever. It's Solomon. He literally could choose any path. He had all the resources. He ruled during a time of peace. So he had relatively few military campaigns that occupied his attention. So when we have times of peace, we can really indulge a lot of different options with our life. Life doesn't demand a particular course from us. We can choose. We're free to choose. And Solomon did. And the book of Ecclesiastes is the product of this. And so the question I've already talked about the questions he's asking. So what is there to be gained in life? What is it? What's the secret of life? He answers this question, I think, And his conclusion, and the reason we steer away from Ecclesiastes is he answers it in the first couple verses of the book. And that is this. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. So this is, he never names himself, never calls himself Solomon, but from other things he says, I'm just going to say it's Solomon. Though there's other things, there are things in Ecclesiastes that say it really can't be Solomon, but for the sake of easiness here, we're going to say this is Solomon. Here's the first two verses that he says about the whole reason he's writing this book and his conclusions. It's all kind of captured in these two verses. He says this, "Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What does a man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun?" So it might be easier to understand if we flip those two verses. So he asks the question, what can be gained by everything? We're going to put our effort toward some goal. Remember, he has unlimited resources, unlimited talents. He's smarter than anybody else. If anybody can pull this off, it's him. For all of our effort, what is there to gain? His conclusion, vanity. Another translation is meaningless. Meaningless. All is meaningless. And so this is why we steer away from Ecclesiastes. So what does he mean by the word vanity or meaningless? He defines it for us. It is, he says it in other places. So, he calls it like in chapter 1, verse 14, "I have seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and a striving after the wind." So he's comparing this idea of vanity to striving after the wind. He says it in more complete ways. He's used the word gain already in verse 2. At the end of chapter 2, he kind of summarizes the whole idea. He's gone after all these things, and he says, "Behold, all was vanity." There's our word. And these are all synonyms here, so it helps us to understand what he means by vanity. "And a striving after the wind," that's one way he says it. Secondly, "and there was nothing to be gained under the sun." And this word gained is in Hebrew an accounting term, something you could put in the bank. And another way of saying it to the layman, he says I think at the end of chapter 5, what should result from his toil that he may carry away in his hand. So there's some product that is tangible, and I can put it in the bank. I can hold it in my hand. He says that product that you're looking for, that you could put in the bank or hold in your hand, is actually chasing after the wind. You cannot grab the wind. You cannot bottle it up. You can't put the wind in the bank. It is wind. So it's this, and this is why he concludes it's a vain pursuit to think that all of your toils you can somehow hold in your hand, put it in the bank. If you make that your life's goal, he says, it's going to be like chasing after the wind. And you will conclude it's vanity. This is his conclusion about all the pursuits. If we work forward in this study together, he's going to give example after example after example of all the things that he toiled after, which were good things, all good things. But there were certain mysteries of life, things that he couldn't change. For all his wisdom, he still had limitations. He still grew old. He still was going to die. In a few generations, no one would remember him. He just posed all these realities and said, well, what good is it? What if I can't grab something in my hand or put it in the bank? If it just goes away, what good is it? And he does give us a meaningful answer to this. So what's his resolve? If all the things, if you're answering that question, the essential question is, if you could do anything with no limits of money or personal limitations, what would you do? The answer to that question is really the heart of it is how I want to be happy. What path or what amount of money would produce happiness. And it's really at the source of why we compare ourselves constantly to everybody else. And it's at the source of envy. I look at someone else and I see what they have. Maybe they've achieved a lot. They have success. They have money. They have a beautiful house. They have a beautiful car. They have a beautiful spouse. They have a personality. Whatever it is that we would compare ourselves and find ourselves wanting, and we envy that person. We're like, man, if I just had those things. This is really where envy comes from. If I just had that, I would be happy. You know, their abilities, their money, their success in whatever endeavor that would be interesting to you, I want that. And right now I don't have that, so I'm unhappy. But if I had that, surely I would be happy. That's really the question posed over and over in the book of Ecclesiastes, and it's so applicable to our life. And I'll just fast forward for you to the end, and we're going to see this over and over and how he explains it in the book of Ecclesiastes is, you skip to the last chapter, and this is all written for his son. He says he's now addressing his son, saying, this is all for you. I did all this work for you. Please learn from me. You'll never be as wise as me, Solomon is saying now to your son. Please learn from me. Here's my final conclusion. It's really two things. One, figure out that true contentment really comes with serving the Creator, and figure this out while you're young. Remember the Creator while you're young is his first conclusion. All these things I'm going to chase after you and I'm going to tell you about that don't really produce what you think they will produce, you know, true happiness, contentment, satisfaction, fulfillment. They don't. They just don't, he'll conclude. What really it comes down to is remember the Creator while you're young. If you're serving the Lord, if you're putting your life into his hands, that is the most important thing. That's what all life comes down to. That's where you're really going to find meaning. It's going to truly make you fully satisfied. Only God can satisfy those core longings, those things that we're really chasing after that always seem to elude us if we're looking to all these other things for the satisfaction of that core longing. No amount of success, no amount of achievement, no amount of, if I just had that promotion, if I just had that little bit more money in the bank, if I just had more free time, you know, whatever it is that we think is going to produce that, Solomon is going to tell us over and over and over, it's chasing after the wind. It's not going to produce what you think it's going to produce. And the conclusion is, first of all, the most important thing is, if you serve the Lord and put your life in his hands, that is truly what is valuable. And that's our little bit of our takeaway this morning. And the second conclusion he offers us, and we'll see it several times in the book of Ecclesiastes, is be content with what you have. Because if you're always chasing after what you don't have, and the end result is, even if you do acquire those things, you're still going to feel the same as you do today if you're discontent. I don't care who you are. We've seen it in the tabloids over and over and over. You have great success and great riches. These are still unhappy people. They're still chasing after something. So even if you had what they had, you're still going to be discontent. So because you might as well be content with what you have. And those are the two great takeaways from Ecclesiastes. And he's going to make this point in very practical terms over and over and over throughout the 12. There's only 12 chapters in Ecclesiastes. So I'm hoping that this setup for you is, well, first of all, encouraging for today. But second of all, kind of whets our appetite for what might come as we kind of dig into this book. I'm not sure if we'll go through all 12 chapters or hit every verse, but my goal is to draw out several themes, at least over the next couple of weeks, from Ecclesiastes that I think are really helpful to us in truly finding the answer to the secret of life, the meaning of life, and that is serve the Lord and be content with whatever life circumstance you are in today. Not to say you have to be content with that all of your life. You could still pursue success and achievement and grow and all those things. But whatever you have today, the key is be content with that. Serve the Lord, be content with today, and you're going to be happier than the person who has all the riches in the world who cannot find contentment with it. And so that's the takeaways from Ecclesiastes. We're going to chase that down for a while. And so think about that. If you want, read ahead. Read all 12 chapters, or at least read the first chapter. We'll talk about that tomorrow. And we'll go from there. Be blessed today. We will see you again tomorrow morning.